Hey guys, this is Funkify here for League Top 10, and long time no talk. Man, it feels like it's been forever, and yet it's only been 2 weeks, but 2 weeks on the internet is like years or something. I don't know. It's pretty crazy. I'm glad to be back. For those of you that don't know, I was gone. I was actually moving here to California, which is where I'm based now for a new job. And yeah, I thought, I'm going to move and it's going to be great, and I'll make a video a couple days after getting there, and no. I was so tired, 25 hours of driving, and I had to unpack everything, and it took forever, and I was just exhausted. So I took a little break, about a week's worth of break, and I'm back now to make more videos, which is great. And today we're actually going to be making a video over Leona, the Radiant Dawn, Riot's new 6300, 6300 IP champion that is a tank, a female tank nonetheless. Something that the community's really been asking for a long time, and I'm glad to see that they listen to the community and that they bring out the champion types that people want to see. So Leona is, first of all, a good champion. She is a very good champion in that her kit works really well together, and it really synergizes well with an organized team. You need to note that I said organized team. There are some inconsistencies, there we go, with her that make for a kind of bad experience if your team is unorganized, or, say you're solo queue, in that she lacks damage heavily. Now, I know you guys will be thinking, well, tanks aren't supposed to have damage, blah, 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 blah. And you're right, tanks aren't supposed to be the main sources of damage. However, for hybrid tanks, which is what she is, a hybrid tank being a champion, or a tank rather, that has all AP ratios on all of their abilities, not tanks like, for example, Rammus, who has AP ability ratios on some of his abilities, but then scales off of armor on others. Hybrid tanks are supposed to be tanks who can forego a little bit of tankiness for more damage. But because of Leona's base damage ratios and base damage AP ratios, that isn't a possibility. They're quite low in damage, and especially late game, stacking any type of AP on her just makes you extremely squishy, and you don't get much damage out of that at all. So it's almost a waste to get any type of AP on her. Unlike other AP hybrid tanks like Maokai or Singed, who can stack some AP and actually do some decent damage. Now, they tried to make up for it. Riot tried to make up for this by giving her Sunlight passive, which allows her to proc any of her abilities, a kind of Lux type debuff on a target, who then a allied champion can attack, which will do additional bonus damage. That itself is supposed to be her way of doing persistent damage. But because she cannot activate it herself, her abilities cannot activate her passive, meaning that she can't activate one ability and then immediately activate another and actually do that passive damage. Because of this, she has no way to take advantage of it herself. So she herself is not a threat in an unorganized team fight when people aren't focusing targets that she debuffs. This all means that late game in a team fight, people can pretty much just ignore her. Sure, she'll be a debuff champion who can slow and stun, but you can basically just try to kite away from her and do the damage you need to do to the squishies targets, and she's useless in that respect. Once you get out of her initial stuns, and if you're in a better position than her team, she can't really provide any kind of threat to kill. Which is unfortunate, and it's something that I feel that Riot really needs to correct. As a champion, though, she has a great kit, like I said. She stuns, she slows, and she essentially has 3 stuns. Q, E is a slight stun during the animation, and then her R, which also, even if she doesn't stun a target with her R, it does slow a target for 80%. 80% for 1.5 seconds, which 80% is so much. Enough for you to get in position, for example, do your E or Q, and enough for your teammates, more or less, to get in position to take advantage of her passive or to just line up other AoE. So for that reason, I really feel she's a great lane partner. She does really well with anybody that has high burst or high potential burst damage. Anybody such as Akali or Zen, anybody that has a large single target ability. Those are champions that she lanes best with. And because she likes to lane with other champions, I tended to go, say, Flash Exhaust or Flash Clairvoyance. Abilities such as those that allow me to flash in, do my combo if need be, and use Clairvoyance or Exhaust to either slow or find out where enemies are and just be an overall support to the team. It worked with Leona not being the only tank on the team. It worked if you had, let's say, a Shin or some other straight tank like Rammus. She can be that supportive, kind of disruptor, which basically just slows, stuns, etc. And she can still just make sure that her allies, and the organized team stay alive. But with those summoner spells, I felt it was the best setup for her in her current role. Now for masteries and runes. For runes, I went Magic Penetration red. For yellow, I went Armor yellow. And for blue, I kind of dabbled in both cooldown reduction and magic resistance. I felt that cooldown reduction probably benefited her more just because the items that you can get that are tanky, that are cooldown reduction, all usually point towards armor items, which means that if you get all of them, you're going to be lacking on magic resistance. So by getting blue cooldown reduction runes, you can then focus more on magic resistant items and not having to worry about getting so much cooldown reduction items that would make you susceptible to magic. And then for quintessences, I went straight HP quintessences because she is a tank. She wants to be bulky early on. Excuse me. Now for masteries, I went either a combination of 21-9, which was basically going down and getting all the hybrid defensive abilities in the defensive tree, and then getting some getting some XP per level or XP additional bonuses, etc. from the utility tree, or getting 9 points in the defensive, getting the HP regen based off of mana level, and then going complete utility, getting clairvoyance, getting the flash cooldown, and getting cooldown on your summoner spells. Both of those are good setups depending on if you're going to be the main tank or if you're going to be the supportive, slash kind of Taric tank who basically goes in there, does their abilities, and supports the allies, making sure they're okay, while the main tank focuses on being a high threat to one target and doing some good sustained damage. Now, item-wise, like I said, she really could benefit from cooldown reduction, but for the simple fact that most cooldown reduction has armor, and the only cooldown reduction that doesn't have armor and has magic resist is Spirit Visage, which does not allow you to take advantage of its passive, which increases your healing and regeneration effects on yourself by 15%, then you're kind of left in this awkward position. First of all, don't even bother getting AP items on her. Don't get Trinity Force. It's just a waste. Trust me, it's a waste. You could be spending those on other items that are more utility based. And AP ratios, if you say, I'm going to get a Crystal Scepter, that's only going to equate to an extra 20, maybe 30 bonus damage on your abilities, which late game, which is when you would normally get that item, I'd suppose, you're not going to benefit from that at all. Abyssal Scepter, again, you're like, that has magic resistance and it reduces magic resistance, blah, 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 blah. No, it's not worth it. You're not Singed, you're not Malachite, you're not going to do their level of damage with your abilities. What I went with instead was Mercury Treads, a Randuin's Omen, a Sunfire Cape. In some cases, I swapped out the Sunfire Cape for a Force of Nature, a Banshee's Veil, a Frozen Heart, and Aegis of Legion. This allowed me to slow the targets, to slow their attack speed, to gain cooldown reduction, to do some passive damage from Sunfire Cape, to block an enemy spell, and to provide my allies with an aura of additional armor, magic resistance, and damage. All utility kind of oriented, while still allowing me to be a good, effective tank. One thing about the Randuin's Omen is that allowed me to get a Heart of Gold early on, and sometimes even a Philosopher's Stone with that, and just sell the Philo later. But those items allow me to passively gain gold because she, number one, shouldn't be taking all the farm in the lane. It should be your attack damage or your AP based champion. Whoever you're laning with is who should be taking it, much like a support. And number two, she can anyways because she's a terrible farmer. because her W, which is the ability which hits most of the champions because of the aura, does very little damage versus full HP minions. So she has a pretty hard time. Her base attack damage is very low as well, and she just has a hard time farming. So with those things in mind, getting a Heart of Gold or getting a Philostone or both of them early on kind of, allows you to be sustained both with mana or HP, as well as allows you to get that gold needed without having to worry about, super try hard farming those creep lanes. And just allows your better, attack damage champion or AP champion to farm instead of you. So all of these combines into a very utility-based tank, a tank that does a lot of CC but does not do a lot of damage. And in League of Legends, every champion needs to do damage. That's how the game is based. That is how the meta is based. That is how the game is played. Late game, 15 minutes into a game, you need to be more of a threat than just a simple stun. You need to be able to do some decent damage 50 minutes into a game. Maokai can do decent damage into the game. Galio can do decent damage. Amumu can do decent damage. Singe can do decent damage. They're all hybrid style tanks. They all can do great damage late in the game due to their abilities, and if you stack AP on them, or some AP, it even helps out even more. Not so much with Leona, which is what I feel they need to change on her. It's what I feel they need to buff, either her ratios or her base damage, much like they did Maokai when he first came out. When Maokai came out, I said to you guys, he's great early game, he has a lot of utility, but late game I feel like I'm doing nothing. And it's the same, similar and true with Leona. Late game, yeah, I'm doing my stuns, but I don't feel like I'm putting a dent in their HP, which for a 50-minute game, every hybrid tank should have some kind of aggressiveness and some type of damage that allows them to do that. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed my little recap here of Leona. To summarize, she's really fun. She has a great kit, although her damage is a little bit low right now, and I think needs a buff, either by making her passive so that she can proc her passive, or by buffing her AP ratios or buffing the base damages. But she has a great kit. She's very useful in an organized team fight right now, even despite not having a lot of damage, and I feel with some slight tweaks she'd be even better. I hope you guys enjoyed my video. If you have any questions or comments, please post them down below in the description or in the comment box or whatever. And like always, guys, if you haven't subscribed already, I do this for every new champion. And go ahead and subscribe, favorite, like, whatever you want to do. And I really appreciate the support, guys. And for the next video, I'll see you later. Spunkify out.